Hi, this is Steve, K8BZ. This is the first video in a series of videos on establishing emergency communications packet radio networks using a program called Outpost Packet Message Manager. This is just an introduction to show you the possibilities of using Outpost and recommendations on how an emergency packet radio network can be established. One of the first things that's necessary to understand is that in a packet radio emergency communications network, the operators will have to assemble portable stations or go kits, as you may have heard them referred to, with a packet radio station in them, so they can go to a remote location and set up their packet station to provide communications for served agencies. While they're serving, they should use tactical call signs and not their own station call sign. Their station call sign will still be transmitted by the Outpost program, but you'll actually send your messages to a tactical call sign. The tactical call signs will describe where the station is located. In other words, there may be a packet station at the EOC, and they will be assigned slot times to send and receive their messages to the bulletin board that the packet stations will use. And the EOC, tactical call sign EOC, will send its traffic to the bulletin board, for example, at the top of the hour. Another tactical call sign might be set up at Incident Command, and they will be assigned a slot time at 5 minutes after the hour to send and receive their traffic to the bulletin board, and so on with an emergency shelter and national traffic system liaison that would take any traffic going out of the packet network from these stations and send them on to other destinations through other traffic outlets, other NTS outlets, either on voice nets or CW nets or other digital nets. And then the rotation would start over at 20 minutes after with the EOC, 25 minutes after Incident Command, 30 minutes after Shelter, and so on. So in this example, each station would have 3 times per hour they would have access to the bulletin board. Now all messages are sent to the bulletin board. In other words, the EOC wouldn't send its messages directly to the shelter. They would be sent to the bulletin board, and each station would have their slot times that they would access the bulletin board. Now all that's accomplished with this program called Outpost Packet Message Manager. This is the basic screen of Packet Message Manager, and it looks and functions much like an email server. The list of messages on the bulletin board are here in the main window, and this is the in tray or inbox, so to speak, if you're comparing it to a email server. This is the out tray where messages are waiting to be sent that have been completed. Sent messages would be stored in this tray, an archive tray where messages that are no longer needed or at least messages that have been completed and have either been sent or received and there's no apparent pending activity. Draft messages for messages that are in the process of being completed to be ready to send, and deleted messages would be in this tray. If you delete a message, it will go to this tray and will remain in that tray unless you permanently delete them, and that should never be done in an emergency communications network. And when you're all done, though, you can actually save all messages, export all folders to a single file, and that file can be given to the county amateur radio emergency coordinator, and if it's a RACES activation, they can give those messages to the county emergency manager, and those messages become part of the official government response to that emergency. So let's go back and look at the in tray. If you want to look at messages in the in tray, you just click on a message and then click open. And this, for example, is a message from the tactical call sign EOC. This is a bulletin, so all stations can read it. And this message is telling all stations in the network, what their tactical call sign will be for the next operational period, and what their slot times are for accessing the bulletin board. If you need to increase the font size, you just click on this A up here, the large A. If you want to decrease it, click the small a. If you want to move to the next message, click the down arrow, and it will continue to go through the messages to locate the messages. If you want to sort the list of messages, you can sort it by who it was sent to by clicking the to header at the top of that column, and it will sort them all by alphabetically by who the message was sent to or by who it was from. You can sort them by date and time. This is ascending order, this is descending order, and you can sort by subject. Any of these columns you can sort by. Message type. You can group all types together. If there's no type indicator, then it's a private message from an individual station to an individual station. If it's a bulletin, it will have a B. If it's a National Traffic System formatted message, it will say NTS. Let's take a look at one of those. We'll open a National Traffic System message, and it uses the correct National Traffic System format for a formal message going outside the network. You can flag messages as urgent. That's what the first column is. If there are 2 exclamation points in that column, the message is flagged as urgent by the sender, and those messages appear in red. Okay, so let's demonstrate sending a message. First we need to select a bulletin board that we want to send the message to. So I'm going to do a Control B. That'll open up the BBS setup screen. I have several bulletin boards already set up in here. And let's send this to the Gladwin Aries Races bulletin board. So we'll click OK. Then we need to, let's, for example, say we're Incident Command. So we're going to use Tactical Call Sign Incident Command, but our station call sign K8BZ will still be sent on packet to fulfill the FCC requirements. Next, if we want to set up our slot times, let's take another look at that message. In-tray TAC calls and slot times. We'll open that. The EOC is slotted to access the bulletin board at 0, 20, and 40 minutes after the hour. So we'll go back up here to the Tools menu, Send Receive Settings. This is no automation here, so it will only access the bulletin board when you force a Send Receive session by clicking this button. But we're going to have scheduled slot times, so we'll do this, and it already has it, but if it didn't, we'd put in 0, 20, and 40 minutes after the hour. And that's when our packet station would access the bulletin board to send and receive messages. If we want to create a new message to send, we'll click the New button. It automatically fills in the bulletin board and the call sign, tactical call sign of who it's from, and let's say we want to send this to the EOC. And the subject, let's say we are asking for command staff. And we are just, I'm going to delete my signature, and we'll just advise the EOC that Okay, now our slot time came up and it's automatically contacting the bulletin board. So that's what you're seeing here. So even though I'm working on a message, Outpost will still check with the bulletin board to see if there are any new messages for us. It's going to go away. Whoop, you didn't see it, but it showed at the end where it actually identifies with your FCC call sign to fulfill the FCC requirements for identification, even though we're using a tactical call. And I'm going to put up here, this is a test message. Okay, so we have a test message here from Incident Command going to the Emergency Operations Center using those tactical call signs up here. And this is the text of the message, and if we send this message, it's going to the out tray. Now if I click on out tray, this is where the message is located. I can reopen the message, and we're just waiting for our slot time to come up. But I'm going to pretend that the slot time has come up, and I'm going to force a send receive session, and that's going to send this message to the bulletin board. And there it goes. It's actually sending over the radio to a local ham radio bulletin board, the Gladwin County Aries Races packet station. And it's going to check for any other traffic. And there's the identification right here. It sends that at the end of each packet session. So let me send all these messages into the archive folder. So all of these other older messages are in the archive folder. In the sent message folder, the one we just sent would be in here. From Incident Command to EOC, that's it, it's highlighted. So that's in the sent folder now. Now let's assume we're the EOC. I'm going to go back to the identification, and if we were the EOC, we would have TAC call EOC. And I'll force another send receive session. Let's go back to the in tray. And when the EOC's slot time comes up, it finds that there's a message for the EOC. If you heard that chime tone there'll be a chime tone that will sound every time a new incoming message comes in. So even though we're only, in our example, allotting 5 minutes of access time to the bulletin board, that's plenty of time to get actually quite lengthy messages in and out. So now in the in tray, there's an incoming message that will open, and this is a message from Incident Command to the EOC. This message was received off the bulletin board. If we need to reply to that message, we click the reply button. It puts the original text of the message, just like an email server might. Let me maximize that. It automatically addresses it from the EOC to Incident Command, and it pre-fills my signature, but I'll take that out for our example. And it has the text of the original message, so the reply could just be typed in here. We will and this would be John Doe, a different John Doe, who is the County Emergency Manager. We'll click Send. That goes into the out tray. Here it is. Let's open it, take a look. There's our message, our reply. Now when the next slot time comes up for the EOC, the message is being sent to the bulletin board, and Incident Command can download the message the next time their slot time comes up. So the message is on the bulletin board. Now it's checking for any other new traffic for the EOC. And not being any, it's going to disconnect. It does the legal identification with the FCC call sign and disconnects. So incident commands, next slot time comes up. And in the in tray now is our reply. Whoops. That's not it. Let's go to the in tray. Now let's get the call sign right. I had a typo here and had ID instead of IC. There is no ID message to addressed to ID, so it didn't retrieve it. So we'll try it again. There, you have one message waiting. It says right there. Now it's reading the message. There's the chime that it downloaded. There's the legal identification. And we're done. Now you see this message is in bold. That indicates that the message has not been read yet. After a message is read, it is no longer listed in bold. So here's the message. We'll maximize it so we can see it a little better. So that's how quickly and easily messages can be set up and sent. Another advantage here, let's say incident command is asking the EOC for emergency response guide assistance. ERG, emergency response guide. And now I'm just, in the interest of saving time, I'm going to leave my pre-filled signature in there. And we'll do another send receive session. Incident command is sending a message to the emergency operations center. There's the legal identification again. Now we'll go back and we'll be the EOC and we'll get that message. And when their slot time comes up, they'll access the bulletin board. It's reading the message. There's the message received chime. The unread message is in bold, so let's open the message. And it's asking for what the emergency response guidelines are for responding to a hydrogen chloride spill. Well, fortunately, the emergency response guide is available for download from the web. These are all of the substances in the emergency response guide, and there are a lot of them. And whenever you select one of these, all of the information in the emergency response guidebook for that substance is over here. So we want to do a search. and apparently I named a substance that doesn't exist. But let's say it was hydrogen sulfide. Okay, let's click on hydrogen sulfide. And if we want to send the potential hazards for that, let's just take them all. We're going to take the health and the whole 9 yards, and I'm going to drag the mouse over them and copy it right out of the emergency response guide. I'm going to do a right click and copy it. Then I'll close that. Let's reply to this message. Let's say that was hydrogen sulfide. I'm going to click reply, and then here all I do is a paste operation. I'll do it with the mouse. I'll right click and click paste. All of that information out of the emergency response guide was pasted in here for the response. So accuracy is maintained and saves a lot of time typing. Click send. Let me put these in the archive folder, clean up the in tray. In the out tray, here's our response waiting to be sent. And we'll do another send receive. Now this is a little longer message, so it'll take a little bit longer to send. Now, even though this entire message is being sent to the TNC, the terminal node controller, the TNC divides that message up into packets of a specified length, depending on what your pack length setting is in the TNC. So even though that message, all of that so far that's been displayed has been sent to the TNC is still sending that one packet at a time, and when it receives the acknowledgments, it will send additional packets until the entire message is sent. Now, as you can see, that's a fairly long message, but we can still get in and out of the bulletin board in well under 5 minutes with messages of that length. So we're not running over our allotted slot times for access to the bulletin board. Now when this is done, we're actually going to log back in as the incident command and receive this response from the EOC. There, we know the message was entirely sent because it's listing to see if there are any other messages for the EOC, and there aren't. So it's doing the legal identification, and now it's disconnecting. So let's go back and be incident command again. Incident command. Their slot time has come up. Now this won't display the packets here until they're actually received. So you'll actually see how quickly that message is actually received, and in how big a sections at a time that that information is put in packets. One of the things that people question about packet, and especially setting up slot times like this, is, well, these are emergency messages. Shouldn't have to wait to send them. Well, if you've ever been on a voice emergency net and that was very busy, you'd come in and list your traffic with the net control. The net control would find an appropriate relay station to take your traffic, have you QSY off frequency to send your traffic, and that whole process usually will take more than the time between your slot times on the packet radio network, and you don't even need a net control station. You need a sysop for the system operator, or sysop for the network, to assign everyone their tactical call signs and slot times, but once they're programmed, you're all set. So here's your incoming message, and we can open that message, and I'll maximize it here. And there's the response, and that's all that it takes to send a lengthy response like this when you have it in a source where you can copy and paste it into a message. So we'll close that, and this concludes the introduction to Outpost. The remaining videos in this series will walk you through all of the necessary steps to download Outpost, install it in your computer, what the equipment requirements are, how to start training for an emergency communications network in your own local jurisdictions. And hopefully this will generate some interest in participating in this and start utilizing Packet for the real advantages and benefits of the mode. It really is a remarkable mode that would be very good for emergency communications networks, and hopefully will begin to be used more here in Region 3 in Michigan. Thanks for watching, and check out the rest of the videos that will explain how to get all this installed and functional on your computer. Thank you.